Huh. It's gonna be an awkward way to start the video. I can't point it at my face because, as you can see, the sun is directly behind my face. So I'm just gonna shoot where I'm walking for a change instead of having my face in the video. This is actually a really old neighborhood of mine that I used to live at, and I wanted to go for a walk today. It's really nice, really sunny. The winds are fairly calm, as you can hear. Someone comment and let me know if the right channel is, the right or left is louder than the other, because I'm holding the phone with my hand. Anyways, I just wanted to go for a walk and just see what's going on with the old neighborhood, see how everything's kind of not in bloom yet. It's the end of April, so none of the trees are really blooming yet. I'll do this walk in a couple of weeks and just kind of do an update. Anybody interested in that kind of thing, let me know. See how the progress of the neighborhood changes with the trees and what everything looks like. See, everything is pretty thin right now. That springtime vibe, you know how it is. Get out and do something nice. So yeah, I was inside and just watched Moon Knight, episode 4, I think it was, or whatever, and damn, it's so weird. I'm not really sure what the direction of the show is about. They're showcasing like a split personality disorder and a childhood trauma, and showcasing all kinds of things that people are going through now. These things are showing up in media like a lot lately. Like, I'm sure that people know that Disney's in the middle of issues. They're under controversy right now with this like woke culture thing, and pushing certain agendas into schools. And I don't know what to make of that. I mean, I'm not a parent, first of all, so I don't know how to feel about what their education system is. I mean, I was a kid at one point, obviously. I remember what it was like growing up and learning things in school, and that was tough enough. But now they're talking about all these other kinds of issues with like sexual identity and content. And when you're kids, I mean, there's a reason why like age of consent and all that stuff is a certain age, because of maturity and stuff like that. So I don't quite understand why agencies, companies, especially companies, are anywhere responsible or contributing to such a conversation. I mean, they're big influences, but as we've seen, like, influence is not like, should we be taking types of influence or the loudest voices as the ones that are judging what happens to our societies at large? And to my point, I would say no, because we have a democratic system in society to like decide things based on the most people and rational discussion. And I don't think that, flip the camera, I don't personally think that companies or loudest voices really get to use their influence in media the way media is now. I mean, the way clickbait is. Clickbait or controversy or trending or whatever it is seems to be what is out there, seems to be what is majority, but it isn't. Just because something is very loud doesn't make it the most authoritative voice. Democratic process is supposed to be that voice. The most people that vote or have voted or thought about it, the most rational, intellectual type of process is supposed to determine what happens. Not the loudest voice. I mean, there's a reason why we have that process in the first place. If it was the strongest survive and the strongest people or the greatest might, you know what I mean, military force, then the strongest person in a room gets to rule everybody. And there's a reason why the democratic process eliminates that. So are we falling back into this like strongest influence, loudest voice, strongest person? You know what I mean? Like what is actually happening here? What's the process? I'm not really gonna touch on the value of the content, like sexual identity and how to express yourself and all that kind of stuff. I'm not a psychologist, I have no idea. But I have studied a little bit more about like cultures and languages and arguments, philosophy, history of people, policies, political side. The political side of it I've studied, so I can speak to that side, but I can't speak to the valuation. Like I said, I'm not a parent, I don't have children. I don't know what people would think or feel about those things being, you know what I mean? I don't know. But the political side of it, I would say that, yeah, for sure, we have a guise of democracy, as we've seen in Canada and the world recently. Like, when you have certain powerful companies or powerful ideas or agendas, they don't respect your democracy. They don't wait for your permission. They implement certain things according to their rule, or even a minority rule at some points, because now policies are changing because the loudest voices or the fewest people are crying the loudest, and all of a sudden things change. That wasn't really voted on. That was like I don't understand what that is. Is that really companies feeling pressure from a loud minority group? Or because the voices are so loud, they're creating a larger awareness, which then threatens their revenue? I don't know. I don't understand what it is, but it is by reaction. That's something I wanted to say. It's a reaction to pressures. It's not an authentic thought. It's not an authentic feeling. It's not a sincere movement. It's a company responding to pressure. They're only doing it because you said so, not because it's real. And of course they're going to do whatever benefits their, that's the whole point of virtue signaling. People will get on board with a virtue that is making headway in the market because it's going to help their bottom line. It's always been about money. It's always been about increasing their reach. You think if these companies really thought about what they were doing, they really cared about these things, don't you think they would have addressed it themselves? They do with everything else. Efficiency and saving money and profit margins and all that shit. They have boards. Let me just go this way. They have people in offices and jobs directed to improving their company. Why isn't there a board of specialists that's addressing things like in a morale way, or that doesn't happen. Hold on. God, I don't think I've been down here since I was like 10. Well, that's not true. But I used to live in this neighborhood. See, the trees are still kind of bare. This area's grown up quite a bit too. I remember sliding from the top of the fences across the left. Sliding from the top there used to be a swimming pool in that space. And these hills would turn to ice in the wintertime, and we'd slide all the way down the hill into the river. They got these trees planted in this area now. That's really cool. Check it out. Yeah, nice. Anyhow. So yeah, if companies and brands and politics and like all this stuff, especially companies, it's really weird when it's companies, because they benefit from public awareness. They benefit from public choice to purchase. The consumers, they're advertising to consumers. I don't think, there's twofold. I mean, obviously you want every company to uphold the best for society. You don't want them, but that's not fucking true. There's so many companies in history that have like made dangerous chemicals and processes and treat their employees like shit and blah blah blah. They're always hiding shit. You know, they're two-faced anyways. So none of that makes sense. That's why I mean, like, their movement to produce content and inclusivity and all this, it's virtue signaling. I understand that there are people concerned about it and there is a value there, but I question the authenticity of it. And as a supporter, am I really impressed that somebody folds to pressure? Is that a win? I don't know. I mean, in any argument, especially like this is a stereotypical one of women and arguments and men and whatever. Guy asks the girl, hey, what's wrong? She says nothing. The assumption is you should know already. So then it's like, hey, let me do something. What can I do to make it right? And then the response is usually, if I tell you, it won't be real, it won't be authentic. It's me telling you what to do. You need to do it on your own. So why the fuck does that not apply to companies and brands and policies and you know what I mean? Why are people's mentalities so inconsistent? Why is the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing? I don't get it. That part of it bothers the shit out of me so much. I hear people talk all kinds of nonsense, making arguments and presenting their ideas, and they'll be on 3 different sides of a fence. That's right, math. Mental math. Three different sides of a fence and pretend like every one of those sides is correct. But each one of those argument points and styles of arguing for a certain point or making a statement, they're not consistent. It makes any one of the points you're trying to make weak because they're not consistent. They're not well thought out. They're emotional, they're expressive, but they're not very intellectual. I mean, everybody has a right to expression. I value that part of it. That's cool. Opinions are totally valid. I actually don't want to be filming while I'm walking up and down this busy street. Fuck. That means I might go back. Anyways, so yes, opinions are valid. Self-expression is welcomed. That's all well and good. But when you're making statements, and this is a part that gets me, a lot of people don't really think about the difference between making, like, stating or expressing an opinion and making a statement. There is a difference. You don't always have to state or speak an opinion with I think. Sometimes it's, Dave Chappelle's the funniest. On its own, that's like, I think Dave Chappelle's the funniest. But when it's like in the face of someone else has said, oh, I think Russell Peters is the best comedian, and somebody else says, no, Dave Chappelle's the best. That's like a counter argument, making a statement, and you're referring to a scale, a determinable scale, kind of, on who's the best. First of all, you need to establish the scale. Anytime there's a best, worst, middle, top 5, what are you basing it on? Everything that is slid into that description of best, better, good, those subjective terms, if you're comparing and you're speaking with somebody else about it and you say your opinion versus someone else, automatically you have engaged in a conversation of evaluation. And if you don't have a scale and you're not on the same page, you're basically just talking bullshit. I mean, if you said something like Dave Chappelle made this much money and Russell Peters made this much money, and making money as a function of their career and evaluating them based on the best, sure. But if you're judging them, either one of them, based on how funny they are, that's completely subjective. There is no best, better. There's no such thing. It's only the only way that conversation makes any sense is if you're talking to yourself. That's the difference. I listen to people speaking about a lot of stuff all the time, especially in my hobby. Oh my God. Any hobby that's based in like a scientific sort of like background. I mean, if you're playing sports, there's certain statistics that go into players, or if you're just like a soccer player and you're doing it for yourself, it's totally different. But when you get into something that's like very science-based, like perception of sound, electronics, the function, you know what I mean? There's a lot of different perceptual things that are in place, or like photography or painting or artwork, or you know what I mean? Like there's techniques that can be applied, and you can say, oh, this is realism and this is postmodernism and this, you know what I mean? Like, and you can have a debate about which one's which, but there are scales to these things. Like there are established art styles in history to describe what the art form is all about. A dance style, a certain move, like, you know what I mean? Like there's a context there when you're having this discussion. So arguing about your opinion is a waste of time. I don't really get why so many people don't understand this or find that it's a valuable use of their time. Is it fun? I mean, I spent so much time analyzing arguments in like a genuine form that I don't like arguing anymore. You know, to the point where I'll just be passive and let somebody else make decisions because I don't want to fight or argue or even debate whatever it is. What kills me, in a way, is just the unawareness that there's a difference between one and the other. That some are statements, some are expressions, and either side of that gets like, you get this argument going, and it's so pointless. I wonder what the reason for the discussion is. If it's just expressing your points of view, maybe some people like conflict and it's fun for them. That's cool. Not me though. But anyways, like going back to the political side and like why awareness and like watching Moon Knight and Disney and supporting brands and companies, and like when they get into arguments like this, you have to, in order to get a really good sense of what a brand or company or person is really about, you need to be able to take them at their consistency. However consistent they are, or pattern of behavior, or pattern of thought, actions more than words kind of thing. If you evaluate their actions over time, you get to understand what their values are. Of course, a lot of things these days are changing, which is good. Change is a good thing. But they're affecting our education. Some of these thoughts and people are now like indoctrinating children, our next generation of kids, our next generation of policymakers, into what? That's akin to brainwashing. TV and media and sales and marketing, and it's already brainwashed tons of people. A lot of the terminology that's been entered into the world, a lot of the like false information that's been offered because it's presented as a bad joke. Like I get flagged all the time for sarcastic jokes on Facebook where they want to restrict my account because the joke isn't factual information. I'm like, yeah, well, no shit. Most jokes are not real. That's why it's a joke. What makes it funny is the fact that it's not real. So what, are we not allowed to use humor anymore? I don't get it. It's a tricky one. Yeah, so Disney and this woke culture thing, I get it. There's a value there somewhere, but you got to be careful. I beg of people to be careful when it comes to like allowing the loud minority to create policies that have generational impact. The same way that we're against systematic racism and generational like wealth and systems. I was commenting with someone the other day and they were shitting all over capitalism. I'm like, no. Capitalism as a system is very valuable in the way that it operates or functions, but individuals within that system are corrupt and they are deviant and they are sneaky and they employ methods that fuck with the system. It's not fair. They don't treat it with respect. They aren't using the system the way it's designed. And when you bypass the system's natural way of balancing things, of course you're going to get imbalances. Of course you're going to have situations where people are like different. Crossing a road, try not to get hit. Yeah, I don't know. I should have probably put this phone down before I decided to cross the street, but whatever. Where are we at? 20 minutes? Nice. I still don't like talking around people. I just try to... People don't know if I'm in a phone call or whatever, but... Yeah. So yeah, it's just... it's a bit alarming. You know, of course I still watched Disney, but I didn't... I'm borrowing the account. So, speaking of deviations and violating a system's programming, what I just mentioned, the fact that I watched a program but I'm using somebody else's account, is exactly the kind of deviation that I was talking about. I should have paid for the channel or the service myself, but I didn't. I borrowed it. So the same way like theft and piracy and illegal download or whatever, they say that it works against everybody, because when you have theft and damages and losses, of course the companies and brands have to make up for it somehow. So if a brand or company is consistently losing money, there will be a change to compensate for that loss in order to maintain the business. So by watching a stream or digital download that's available all the time, the same way that I wonder about like bus schedules and ridership, the bus schedules are pretty consistent. They're going to be driving that bus on that route regardless of how many passengers there are. So what's the loss if people are paying or not paying? I guess if they're paying the ridership, you have overhead. I don't know. I'm not into business. I'm more of like an art word person rather than a math person. So I have no idea. But yeah, I just think that there's a really important lesson to be learned about the way that policies are made, who we allow to make policies, and like all that kind of stuff. Wow, I'm in this other park now. There's another park that I grew up in. Anyways, that's long enough for me. I just wanted to get out and take a walk and just talk about a couple of things because I just watched Moon Knight. Notice how I didn't give you any spoilers? But yeah, for real, I don't know. The idea of boycotting a company because of the things that they do is the same way like ghosting people if they piss you off. You could press block and delete. But of course, companies and brands get really smart or embed themselves in stuff like necessity, where you can't really boycott an electric company, right? Because what are you going to do without electricity? So the system has been designed to make you involve regardless of whether you want to or not. And sometimes, like if you're gonna take up that debate of Coke and Pepsi, which one's better? I mean, imagine if they were both made by the same company, or like AT&T and Verizon. If they're owned by the same brand at the top, you can't boycott one and buy the other, because then the money's still going to where it's being used against you. So you know what I mean? That's what I mean about consistency. Like, how much research or like information are we really gathering before making these arguments, not opinions. I don't know, it just doesn't seem to make sense. Anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. Thanks for watching till the end. Let me know if you did. Comment on anything you heard. I'll try to do this more often. Fridays are my days off through the weekend. Yeah, 25 minutes. Thanks for coming. I'll see you guys later.